Arry. I'm not going to be as fun as Rob, but I'll try. All right, well, thank you for your time and attention and the opportunity to present to you and share some data. I have my 8-year-old son with me, and so he asked me to speak in a way that he could understand what I'm talking about, so I'm going to do my very best. But he might raise a hand if I don't. So you heard this was in case there wasn't a bio on me. Is this being projected? Oh, it is being projected. Okay. So I have a bit of history in technology, mostly in technology. I'm a technologist, nerd through and through, so hopefully I'm in good company with my fellow nerds. All right. So to begin with the digital innovation primer, this is what I use often when I'm talking to policymakers, and this is mostly to help my son here. But how did we get to here today? Well, back in the day when I was little, this is like the 1970s, 80s, and 90s, we didn't really have email or smartphones. We didn't even have Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or any of these things. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have Minecraft. What did we do all day? We played with sand and dirt, made mud pies. Well, also back in the day, we had filing cabinets and regular snail mail. You put stuff, you wrote down a letter, and then you put it in an envelope, and you put a stamp on it, and you mailed it. There was nothing, email was not a thing. Then, starting in the 90s, we started digitizing stuff. And so that meant we had MP3s, right? We had ICQ. Do you remember, MySpace? All that stuff started happening. And so we've been digitizing and digitizing and digitizing. But that's caused a lot of issues. What kind of issues? Well, there's lots of like spam attacks and hackers, and they can go in and steal your passwords, and they can do pixel and pixel attacks. So you can pretend you're going into your bank account online, but the window looks like your bank, but it's not. It's like a bad guy that drew a picture of your bank, and you're putting in your email and your password, and you're putting it into the bad guy site, not the real bank account. So they can do all sorts of weird things. And we have, the target hacks and the Experian hacks and all sorts of hacks. They're stealing our information day in and day out, left and right. And they're making millions and millions and millions of dollars off our data. Oh, hi, Anoop. So that's why we need this technology. We need technology that can be a trust anchor for this digital world that we've been building over the last several decades. So what I'm going to talk to you about is a whole bunch of data that represents what's going on across the United States, state by state. And this is the methodology of how we got there. We broke down what creates economic impact in your community, your city, your counties. We look at startups. We look at venture capital. We look at incumbents, who are the Fortune 1000 or 500 that are in your local area, that are investing and putting in jobs and doing research and development in this. We look at academia. Are there social clubs and blockchain clubs or Web3 clubs at your local university? Do they have curriculum? Do they have workshops? Are the professors writing papers on this? And then the fifth thing that we look at is government. Is your local government investing in this? Are they working on creating jobs, doing job fairs? Are they, actually implementing this technology? So I'm going to walk through the big state-by-state sort of grand summaries of what we found. So here you can see, the most active states, they have some really, really large markets. Having large markets make a big difference in how active your local communities will have and how much of an impact this will have. So California, New York, Florida, Texas. Lots of activity, but not so much international investors. Maybe this is a good thing, maybe not a bad thing. Who knows? Texas and Georgia. Lots of government investment, Alabama, South Carolina, Montana. Unexpectedly high per capita investment. So we're like, oh, there's a lot of activity in these states, but not that big of a market, right? Nevada, Delaware, New Jersey, Wyoming, Utah. And then single industry players. So Tennessee, hey. Healthcare, Nevada for gaming, and Maryland for government. You're looking at a report that has not yet been released, just so you know. This has not been released. You're the first to view this. So this year we added in 2023 data, and last year was a pretty rough, long end to the crypto winter. And so you can see a big drop in the data as I present it, but in terms of capital being invested year over year by our large, by startups and also by enterprises, it's gone up year over year, except for, the last year, which was still much higher than 2020 or most of the previous years. Looking at startups founded, so you can see through this data, anytime we have a giant hype cycle, like when Bitcoin hit like $69,000 last time, we had a lot of startups founded in 2021, also in 2017 with a big ICO boom, lots of startups. But generally the trend has been going up, except for last year, the big crypto winter. And then very often when we talk to policymakers across the states and also in DC, they go like, what about jobs? Are these just super scary super coders wearing black hoodies doing nefarious activities? No. Do I look like one? I don't think so. Right, there's about 250,000 jobs that we have counted. And how do we get this data? We scan the internet, all the job postings across all the job sites, and we looked for keywords that indicated that they were blockchain, Web3, Bitcoin mining, and that's how we got that number. It's a very significant number. And we also looked at, what are the salary ranges? It's anywhere from 40,000 to 400,000, right? You're looking at COOs, you're looking at operations, you're looking at customer support and accounting. I mean, it is across the gamut. This is an interesting number, and this number has increased since last year. So of all investors actively investing in Web3, 36% are international. For typical startups, especially raising a pre-seed or seed or Series A, most of those investments typically come from US-based, your local area. But in Web3, I think it's because we're global first. We do have a significant more coming from international. And where are those international investors coming from? Asia, Europe, and others, I think more like, yeah. Okay, so like state by state stats, people love to see like, what are the top 10? Well, top 10 states with the most count of startups. California, New York, Florida, Texas, Delaware, Illinois, Massachusetts, Washington, I'm from Washington, Wyoming, and Colorado. But then when we look at, where are the investments going and where are the investments? Obviously California again, but we have New York, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Florida, Delaware, Texas, Illinois, Georgia, and Washington made it there in spot number 10. In terms of economic impact, that innovator supporting your local startups, looking for people that start these companies, they make a really, really big impact to that bottom line. And also, the count of jobs. Most of the jobs that are held in the US are held from small businesses. All right, so the enterprises. As part of GBBC, I see a lot of the old Web2 traditional finance. They're very active and very involved in the space, but they don't really come out and talk very often to the public. And so, like JP Morgan, you see Cigna or Overstock, there are lots of Fortune 100s, Fortune 1000s that are involved in this space. We counted over 276, over 25% of the Fortune 1000 are investing. And that means they're doing R&D, they have some projects, they've done a white paper, they're posting jobs in the space. Another thing I hear often is the US doesn't spend any money and doesn't care about this. Actually, they do. It's been going up year over year. Even in 2023, in the midst of crypto winter, the federal funding in this space has gone up. It's not as large as like a Singapore or a percentage of GDP as other countries. I mean, small percentage, but that number has gone up. And so who are the funders from our federal government? It's the National Science Foundation. It's the Department of Defense. Let's see, Department of Health and Human Services. And I thought maybe like this federal funding would be going into like, jobs and economic development. Actually, most of these funding is going into use cases. They're looking at investments into cybersecurity, into identity. And so I think that's a really good sign that the government is also spending more in this innovative technology. And we need them to spend more on our infrastructure. So we produce this report where we do a battle card of every state across the United States, including Puerto Rico and the District of Columbia. So if you're interested in that full report, please do reach out because I'd love to share that report. And also, as you talk to your state lawmakers or your community members, you can use it as a way to say like, hey, These are the companies I should talk to if I want to go and build a community in my particular state. Or, hey, lawmaker, did you know we have 200 something startups in our state working on this technology? This is not small beans, right? This is a very important part of our state. So please pay attention and don't vote no, at least, right? Don't stop progress. Don't stop innovation in our state, because we need that investment. We need this job activity. We need this in our particular state. So here's Tennessee. Tennessee is the epicenter for healthcare, obviously, but as an ecosystem, very strong player in terms of academics, some government, some startups. Maybe we could bring in some more investors into the state of Tennessee. Maybe we could get some more of the incumbents here to be more active in the Web3 community. But we have over 29 companies with $40 million invested in Web3. And then you can also see like 72 startups out of 93 companies are here in Tennessee. One company has raised over $100 million, 2 IPOs, 7 M&As, mergers and acquisitions, meaning companies have combined. And so BTC Media raised $46 million, Hashed Health, one of note, Prime, yeah, you can read it, and I'm happy to share this. Texas, a lot of folks are really interested in Bitcoin mining country. So they've done a really, really great job, and that, big credit to Lee Bratcher, who is the president of the Texas Blockchain Council, for his work. Just, really killing it across all of the 5 vectors that we look at in terms of economic impact. And then, here's another version, our state, Washington. It used to be really, really hostile. Starting in 2018, when I started the Washington Blockchain Council, the DFI was going in heavy-handed and just whacking our startups left and right. After a few conversations, they're like, oh, this community is our client. We should not be mean to them. We should try and help them. So they set up the Center for FinTech Information. They now have office hours so that we can work together. And we really believe in those public and private relationships so that the community can continue to grow and innovate, and the lawmakers can help keep consumers safe and do the thing that they do. In terms of jobs, people often ask, what's the most important thing? I've talked to a lot of universities, and they go, should we have our own degree in blockchain or Web3 or Bitcoin? Or I go, no, you don't actually need a whole new degree in this. A lot of these degrees that you already do is good enough. Maybe you might do a one-day workshop. When I talk to CTOs in this space, they go, what do they need? They need people that can do out-of-the-box thinking. Think about smart contracts, right? Smart contracts are supposedly immutable, right? It's forever. You can't really undo it. And so you need people that can develop and think of all the edge cases that you never would think to happen, and test for those. So like really, really good edge thinkers. When I talk to CTOs, they're also looking for people that really understand algorithms and patterns. And so those are also really important to the topic of jobs. Here's my final slide. This is the way we view the world. So we've gone through an evolution. I think this slide really kind of summarizes it. We went from this analog world where we pen and paper, wrote letters, and then we went to this world where we had websites and we got to browse and look at blogs. And then we're in this world of, mobile devices and literally everything in the palm of your hand. But now we need to lock down this digital world and make it safe and secure. And when I do a Zoom meeting or a FaceTime with you, my son, I know that it's him and it's not somebody pretending to be him. When I receive a document from Anoop, I know that it's truly a document from Anoop and he sent it. So these are all things that we need to use this technology to make our digital world a lot more palatable and safe for all of us. That's kind of it. If you have any questions, happy to take any questions and happy to share the report. But feel free to email me. I will literally send you the report, the full 106-pager, if you'd like to check that out. But happy to be a resource. And thank you so much for the opportunity to share.